The blue light from the star map filled the control room of the UES Horizon. Commander Jake Morrison stood with his arms crossed, staring at the holographic display that floated in front of him. The map showed thousands of bright dots scattered across the galaxy. Each dot was a different alien world or space station. Lines connected many of the dots, showing trade routes that had been used for millions of years. But something was wrong with this map, something that made Jake's stomach feel tight with worry. Dr. Lisa Kane walked up beside him. She was the ship's expert on alien history and culture. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes showed the same confusion that Jake felt. "Look at this," she said, pointing at the map. "Every alien race we've met has detailed information about each other. They know where other species live, what they trade, how their governments work. Some of these records go back 10 million years. Jake nodded. He had seen the evidence himself over the past few months. When humans first made contact with alien civilizations, they had expected to find themselves listed somewhere in the galactic databases. After all, humans had been exploring space for decades and had colonies on dozens of worlds. Instead, they found nothing. Not just missing information, but complete blank spaces where human territory should be. "It's like we don't exist," Jake said quietly. Lisa touched the hologram and zoomed in on a section of space. The display showed the area where Earth and all the human colonies were located. On every alien map they had found, this entire region was empty. No stars, no planets, no mention of any life at all. "But here's the really strange part," Lisa continued. "The aliens have perfect maps of the space around us. They know about star systems that are just outside human territory. They have detailed information about gas clouds and asteroid fields right next to our borders, but the moment you cross into human space, their maps just stop." Communications Officer Beth Collins looked up from her control station. She was young, maybe 25, with short blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She had been monitoring alien radio signals all morning. "Commander," she said, "I'm picking up more of those strange transmissions, the same kind we detected last week." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of transmissions?" "They're encrypted, but I can tell they're scanning our area of space. Someone is actively looking at human territory and sending reports back to other systems. It's happening every few hours." Dr. Kane joined them at the communications station. "Beth, can you trace where these signals are coming from?" Beth's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "I've been trying, but it's difficult. The signals seem to bounce around between different alien networks before they reach their final destination. But I can tell you one thing. Whoever is sending them doesn't want us to know about it." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years as a space commander, he had never encountered anything like this. It was one thing for aliens to be unfriendly or suspicious of humans. That would be normal when two different species first meet. But this was different. This felt like humans were being deliberately hidden from something. "Beth, I want you to keep monitoring those signals. Record everything and try to break their encryption codes," Jake ordered. "Lisa, I need you to go through all our alien contact data again. Look for any clues about why our space appears empty on their maps." Over the next few days, more strange discoveries came to light. Engineer Pete Adams found unusual energy readings in space near the borders of human territory. The readings suggested some kind of advanced technology, but nothing humans had ever built. "It's like there's an invisible barrier around us," Pete explained to Jake in the engineering section of the ship. Pete was a tall man with red hair and freckles, and he had been working with alien technology for the past year. "A barrier?" Jake asked. "Not exactly a wall, but something that affects how other species see our region of space. Think of it like a one-way mirror. We can see out, but they can't see in. At least they couldn't until recently." "What do you mean, until recently?" Pete pulled up a display showing energy measurements from the past 6 months. "These readings have been getting weaker. Whatever technology was hiding us, it's starting to fail. That's probably why some alien ships have started to notice us." Jake studied the information. If Pete was right, then humans had been living inside some kind of invisible prison without even knowing it. But who had built this prison, and why? Dr. Kane's research provided more disturbing answers. She had been working with alien databases and historical records trying to understand how galactic civilization worked. What she found was a pattern that repeated across thousands of different species. "Jake, you need to see this," she said, calling him to her research station. The room was filled with holographic displays showing alien writing and star charts. "I've been studying how different alien races first made contact with each other. In every case I can find, there are records from both sides of the meeting. Species A meets Species B, and both of them write down what happened. Both sides update their star maps to include information about the other." "That makes sense," Jake said, "but not with us. I found records from 17 different alien civilizations that mention detecting unusual energy signatures or mysterious signals from our region of space. But in every case, these records end suddenly. It's like someone told them to stop investigating." Lisa showed him one example. It was a report from a species called the Thelnari, written about 50 years ago. The report described detecting radio signals that seemed to come from an empty region of space. The alien scientist who wrote the report planned to send ships to investigate. "But look at this," Lisa said, pointing to the date stamps on the files. 3 days after this report was filed, all research into our region was canceled. The scientist who wrote it was transferred to a different project, and there's a note in the files that says investigation of the silent sector is forbidden by galactic law. "Silent sector?" Jake asked. "That's what they call our region of space. And Jake, this pattern repeats with every species that gets too curious about us. They detect us, they start to investigate, and then suddenly they stop. Sometimes the scientists involved disappear completely from official records. The implications were terrifying. It suggested that someone with incredible power had been actively working to keep humanity hidden from the rest of the galaxy. But who had that kind of authority over so many different alien civilizations?" As Jake thought about these questions, Beth's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Commander Morrison, please come to the bridge immediately. We're receiving a transmission from an unknown alien vessel and it's badly damaged." Jake and Lisa rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see a strange ship drifting through space. It was unlike any alien vessel they had encountered before. The ship looked ancient, with smooth curves and a metallic surface that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. "Commander," Beth reported, "the ship is sending out a distress signal, but it's also broadcasting something else. A warning." "What kind of warning?" Beth looked up at him with worried eyes. "It's a message in multiple alien languages. The translation software is still working on it. But the basic meaning is clear. It says, do not approach the silent sector. Do not investigate the sleeping giants. Do not wake what was meant to slumber." Jake felt his blood turn cold. The ship before them might hold answers to the mystery that had been troubling him for months. But it also carried warnings that suggested those answers might be more dangerous than ignorance. "Beth, open a communication channel with that ship," Jake ordered, "and prepare a boarding party. We're going to find out what's really going on here." As the UES Horizon moved closer to the mysterious alien vessel, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to learn something that would change everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. The alien ship floated silently in the darkness of space. Commander Jake Morrison watched it through the main window of the UES Horizon as his crew prepared for the boarding mission. The strange vessel was twice the size of their own ship, with a hull that seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted between silver and deep blue. "Life support readings are weak but stable," reported Dr. Lisa Kane from her station. "There's at least one survivor on board, but their vital signs are dropping fast." Jake nodded to his boarding team. "Pete, Beth, you're with me. Lisa, you stay. Hear and monitor our communications. If something goes wrong, get us out of there immediately." The three of them suited up in their space gear and crossed to the alien vessel through a connecting tube. The moment they stepped inside, Jake knew they were dealing with something far older than any alien technology they had encountered before. The walls of the ship were covered in symbols that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The air was thick and humid, with a smell that reminded Jake of old libraries and forgotten museums. Their footsteps echoed strangely as they made their way through corridors that curved in impossible directions. "Commander," Beth whispered, My scanner is picking up some kind of energy field throughout the ship. It's almost like the entire vessel is alive. They found the survivor in what appeared to be the ship's control room. The alien was unlike any species they had met before. It stood about 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and large black eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Its body was thin and graceful, but Jake could see that it was badly injured. The creature looked up as they approached. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through ancient trees, and the universal translator struggled to convert its words. You are the ones from the silent sector, it said, its voice filled with a mixture of fear and amazement. The sleeping giants have awakened. Pete immediately began setting up a portable medical unit to help stabilize the alien's condition. Easy there, friend, we're here to help. The alien's large eyes focused on Jake. You do not understand. Your people, they do not know what they are, what they were made to be. What do you mean? Jake asked, kneeling down beside the creature. Who are you? What species are you from? I am Kethtal of the Keth Moran, the alien replied. We are the keepers of memory. We remember what others choose to forget. We have watched your sector for 3,000 years waiting for the signs. Was recording everything on her portable device. What signs? What have you been watching for? Kethatal's breathing became more labored. Pete worked frantically to adjust the medical equipment to help the alien's strange physiology. The barriers, Kethatal continued. They are weakening. We can see your ships now where before there was only empty space. The Creator's work is coming undone. The Creators? Jake pressed. Who are the Creators? The ones who came before, the ones who built the prison that protects you, and protects us from you. The alien's words sent a chill through Jake's body. A prison? You're saying we've been living in a prison? Kethtal tried to sit up, but Pete gently held him down. Not a prison to keep you in, a prison to keep you hidden, to keep you safe until the time was right, but also to keep the galaxy safe from you. That doesn't make sense, Beth said. Humans aren't dangerous to the galaxy. We're just explorers trying to find our place among the stars. The alien's laugh was like the sound of wind through broken glass. You think you are just another species, seeking to join the galactic community. But you are so much more. So much more dangerous. Jake felt his patience running out. Explain what you mean. Stop speaking in riddles. Kethtal's eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened again, they were filled with ancient sadness. Your people have abilities that no other species in the galaxy possesses. You can do things that should be impossible, but you do not know this because the barriers have hidden it from you as well. What kind of abilities? Pete asked while continuing to work on the medical equipment. You can touch the space between thoughts. You can reach into the realm where consciousness itself lives. Most species can only think and feel within their own minds, but humans can affect the thoughts and feelings of others without even knowing they are doing it. Jake tried to process this information. You're talking about telepathy? Mind reading? Not exactly. Something more fundamental. When humans feel strong emotions together, when they unite for a common cause, they create ripples in the fabric of consciousness itself. These ripples can be felt across vast distances. They can influence the behavior of entire civilizations. Beth looked at her scanner readings. Commander, I'm detecting strange energy patterns coming from the ship's data core. It looks like there's a massive amount of information stored there. Kethtal nodded weakly. The memory banks contain the true history of your species. The history that was hidden from you. The Creators left these records for the day when the barriers would fail and the truth would need to be told. Show us, Jake demanded. The alien pressed his hand against a panel on the wall, and suddenly the room filled with holographic images. Jake and his team watched in amazement as scenes from Earth's history played out before them. But these were not the events they remembered from their history books. The images showed early humans, but they were not primitive cave dwellers. Instead, they were beings of incredible power who could shape reality with their thoughts. They built cities that floated in the air and traveled between worlds using nothing but their mental abilities. This is impossible, Pete breathed. If humans had these powers, why don't we remember? Why don't we have them now? Because the creators took them away, Kethtal explained. Your species was becoming too powerful, too dangerous. You were on the verge of discovering something that could have destroyed not just your world, but the entire galaxy. The holographic display changed to show massive creatures made of pure darkness, beings that seemed to consume light itself. These creatures were fighting against the early humans, and the battle was tearing apart the fabric of space. The Devourers, Kethtal whispered. The ancient enemy that consumed thousands of civilizations before the creators found a way to stop them. But the key to stopping them was your species. I don't understand, Jake said. How could humans stop something that destroyed entire civilizations? Because humans are immune to the Devourer's primary weapon. They feed on consciousness, on the mental energy of living beings. But human consciousness is different. It cannot be consumed or controlled in the same way. When the Devourers tried to feed on humans, they found something they could not digest. The images showed the final battle between humans and the Devourers. Jake watched as human warriors fought beings of pure nightmare and slowly began to win. But victory came at a terrible cost. Kethtal continued. The battle opened doorways between dimensions. It threatened to tear apart the universe itself. The creators had to make a choice. The hologram showed advanced beings that looked like angels made of light. These were the creators, and Jake watched as they used their technology to lock away both the Devourers and the human powers that could fight them. They sealed the Devourers in a pocket dimension, Kethtal explained, but they also sealed away human consciousness abilities. They rebuilt your world, gave you new memories, and surrounded your space with barriers that would hide you from the galaxy. But why? Beth asked. If we could fight the Devourers, why not let us keep our abilities? Because your powers were linked to theirs. As long as humans could access their true abilities, the Devourers could eventually find a way to break free from their prison. The creators chose to sacrifice human potential to keep the galaxy safe. Jake felt a mixture of anger and confusion. So we've been living a lie our entire existence? Not a lie. A necessary protection. But now the protective barriers are failing. Your ships are becoming visible to the galaxy again. And worse, your emerging presence is being felt by the Devourers in their dimensional prison. The medical equipment suddenly began beeping frantically. Pete looked at the readings with alarm. His vital signs are dropping rapidly. We're losing him. Kethtal grabbed Jake's arm with surprising strength. You must understand. Your species is not just another race seeking to join the galactic community. You are the key to either saving the galaxy or destroying it. The choice you make in the coming days will determine the fate of all conscious life. What choice? Jake demanded. What are we supposed to do? You can choose to return to hiding, allow the barriers to be rebuilt, live in isolation but safety. Or you can choose to accept your true nature and face the responsibility that comes with it. And if we choose to accept our nature, Kethtal's eyes began to close. Then you must be ready to fight the Devourers when they break free, because your emergence into galactic consciousness is the key they need to escape their prison. The alien's hand fell away from Jake's arm, and the medical equipment fell silent. Kethtal was gone, leaving behind only his ship full of impossible memories and a choice that would determine the future of the galaxy. Jake looked at his team members, seeing his own confusion and fear reflected in their faces. They had come, looking for answers about why human space was missing from galactic maps. 2 weeks had passed since Kethtal died aboard his ancient ship. Commander Jake Morrison had barely slept during that time. The alien's words kept echoing in his mind, along with the impossible images they had seen in the ship's memory banks. Dr. Lisa Kane had been working day and night to study the information they had recovered from the Kethmoran vessel. Her research station on the UES horizon was now covered with holographic displays showing alien symbols, star charts, and historical records that dated back millions of years. Jake, you need to see this, Lisa called out as he entered her workspace. I've been trying to verify what Kethtal told us, and I found something incredible. Jake walked over to her main display. What is it? Remember how he mentioned the creators? I've been searching through every alien database we have access to, looking for any mention of them. Most civilizations don't have any records of them at all, but I found something in the archives of the oldest species we know. Lisa activated a holographic projection that showed what looked like a massive structure floating in space. It was geometric and beautiful, made of some kind of crystal that seemed to contain entire star systems within its faceted surfaces. This is called the Archive of First Memory, Lisa explained. It's a space station built by a species called the Veltar, who claim to be the oldest continuously existing civilization in the galaxy. They've been keeping records for over 50 million years. Jake studied the structure. What did you find? There, references to something called the Great Sealing. According to the Veltar records, approximately 3 million years ago, there was a catastrophic war that threatened to destroy all conscious life in the galaxy. The enemy was something they call the hunger that walks between stars. The Devourers, Jake said grimly. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. The Veltar records say that the enemy was defeated not by superior weapons or technology, but by a species that was immune to the hunger's primary method of attack. Lisa pulled up another display showing ancient alien text with translation notes beside it. The records describe this immune species as the young ones who dream together, and the warriors whose thoughts cannot be consumed. The description matches what Kethtal told us about early humans. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. So, it's true. Humans really were involved in this ancient war. But that's not all, Lisa continued. The records also mention the creators, though the Veltar call them by a different name. They refer to them as the Architects of Mercy. Mercy? According to the Veltar, the Architects made a terrible choice at the end of the war. They could have used the immune species to completely destroy the hunger, but doing so would have required unleashing powers that could tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Lisa showed him images of cosmic destruction, stars going out, and entire regions of space collapsing into nothingness. Instead, the Architects chose to seal away both the enemy and the immune species' dangerous abilities. They called it an act of mercy because it saved the galaxy from total destruction. Even if it meant condemning the immune species to forget who they really were, Jake said quietly. The records are incomplete, but there are references to the Architects creating a garden of forgetting, where the immune species could live safely while their dangerous powers remained dormant. Jake realized the implications. Earth. They're talking about Earth. I think so. And Jake? There's more. I've been analyzing the energy readings that Pete detected near the borders of human space. The patterns matched descriptions in these ancient records of something called architect technology. Before Jake could respond, Beth's voice came over the ship's communication system. Commander Morrison to the bridge immediately. We're detecting multiple alien vessels approaching our position. Jake and Lisa rushed to the bridge where they found the crew in a state of controlled panic. The main screen showed 6 different alien ships surrounding the UES horizon. Each ship belonged to a different species, and they were all broadcasting messages on multiple frequencies. What's the situation? Jake asked as he took his position in the command chair. They all arrived. Within the past 10 minutes, Beth reported. Each ship is from a different civilization, but they're all saying the same thing. They want to talk to us about something called the Silent Sector Incident. The Silent Sector Incident? Communications Officer Amy Price looked up from her station. Amy was new to the crew, a quiet woman with dark hair and serious brown eyes who specialized in alien languages. Commander, I've been monitoring Galactic Communication Network since we discovered Kethtal's ship. The news of our encounter has spread throughout the galaxy faster than should be possible. How fast? Faster than light-speed communication allows. It's almost like the information was transmitted instantaneously across thousands of light years. Every major civilization in the galaxy knows that humans have made contact with Kethmoran technology. Jake felt a growing sense of unease. Put me in communication with the lead alien vessel. The main screen changed to show the bridge of an alien ship. The being looking back at them was tall and graceful, with silver skin and large purple eyes. When it spoke, its voice was formal and careful. I am Ambassador HFY of the Galactic Preservation Council. Commander Morrison, your species has interfered with protected ancient technology. This action has created ripples throughout the galactic consciousness network that threaten the stability of our civilization. Galactic Consciousness Network? Jake asked. You do not know, HFY said, and Jake could hear surprise in the alien's translated voice. Your species truly does not understand what it is. Lisa stepped forward. Ambassador, we're trying to understand. We recently learned that our species may have been deliberately hidden from galactic civilization. Can you help us understand why? HFY's large eyes studied them for a long moment. The barriers that hid your people were not just physical constructs. They were designed to contain something far more dangerous than your ships or your weapons. What do you mean? Human consciousness operates on a frequency that can affect the thoughts and emotions of other species across vast distances. When humans experience strong emotions together, these feelings spread through what we call the consciousness network like ripples in a pond. Jake tried to understand. Are you saying we're telepathic? Not exactly. Telepathy is the ability to read thoughts. What humans possess is far more powerful and dangerous. You have the ability to influence the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Amy looked up from her communication station. Commander, I'm receiving similar messages from all the other alien vessels. They're all afraid of something they call consciousness contamination. Ambassador HFY continued speaking. For 3 million years, the galaxy has existed in a state of mental equilibrium. Each species maintains its own psychological patterns without interfering with others. But when the barriers around human space began to fail, that balance was disrupted. How? Lisa asked. Every human emotion, every human dream, every human fear now spreads through the consciousness network. Other species are beginning to experience thoughts and feelings that are not their own. Some civilizations are reporting mass psychological changes in their populations. The implications were staggering. Jake realized that humanity's emergence into galactic society was not just a political or economic event. It was changing the fundamental nature of consciousness for every thinking being in the galaxy. What kind of changes? He asked. Species that have been peaceful for millions of years are suddenly experiencing aggression and territorial behavior. Others are developing concepts of individual freedom that threaten their collective social structures. Some are even beginning to question the nature of reality itself. Engineer Pete Adams, who had been listening from his station, spoke up. Are you saying that just by existing, humans are changing how other species think? Not just by existing, by thinking and feeling with the intensity that is natural to your species. Human emotions are simply too powerful for the galactic consciousness network to contain safely. Jake felt a heavy weight settling on his shoulders. So what are you asking us to do? The Galactic Preservation Council has the authority to rebuild the barriers that once contained your species. We can restore the isolation that kept your consciousness from affecting others. But this would mean permanent separation from galactic civilization. And if we refuse? HFY's expression grew somber. Then we must consider other options to protect the stability of galactic consciousness. Before Jake could ask what those other options were, every alarm on the bridge began sounding at once. Beth looked at her instruments with growing alarm. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Something is happening on Earth and all the human colonies simultaneously. The main screen switched to show readings from throughout human territory. Every human world was showing the same pattern of energy release that they had detected near the failing barriers. What's causing it? Jake demanded. Lisa checked her own readings and her face went pale. Jake, I think it's us. The revelation about our true nature, the emotional impact of learning about our hidden history. It's causing some kind of resonance effect throughout human consciousness. The emergency alarm had been sounding on the UES horizon for 3 hours straight. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching readings that made no sense according to everything humans knew about physics. Across human space, reality itself seemed to be breaking down. Dr. Lisa Kane looked up from her station with exhausted eyes. She had been working without rest since the dimensional disturbances began. Jake, The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever is happening, it's centered around every major human population center. What kind of energy? Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. The same type we detected from the architect barriers. But this time it's not containing something. It's like the barriers are being torn apart from the inside. Communications Officer Beth Collins was managing dozens of incoming transmissions from human colonies throughout the galaxy. Her normally calm voice showed signs of stress as she reported the latest updates. Commander, I'm getting reports from New Terra, Mars Colony, and the mining stations in the Centauri system. People everywhere are experiencing the same thing. They're having visions of memories that aren't their own. Jake had been experiencing the visions himself, though he hadn't told his crew. In his dreams, he saw himself as someone else. Someone who could reshape matter with thought alone and travel between stars by willing himself to move. The visions felt more real than his actual memories. What kind of memories? He asked. Ancient ones. People are remembering battles they never fought, technologies they never learned, and places they've never been. But these aren't random memories. They all seem to be from the same time period, around 3 million years ago. Amy Price looked up from her communication station. Her face was pale, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Commander, it's not just humans. I'm monitoring alien communication networks, and every species in the galaxy is reporting the same phenomenon. The aliens are having human memories? Not exactly. They're experiencing human emotions and thoughts in real time. When humans on Earth feel fear about these visions, aliens on worlds thousands of light years away feel that same fear. When humans feel wonder or curiosity, those emotions spread to alien populations across the galaxy. Jake tried to understand the implications. So human consciousness is affecting the entire galaxy? It's worse than that, Lisa said, pulling up a new display. The consciousness network that Ambassador Vexhai mentioned isn't just carrying human emotions to other species, it's amplifying them. A single human's nightmare is being experienced by millions of aliens simultaneously, Engineer Pete Adams called out from his station. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy buildups at the edge of human space. Something is trying to break through from another dimension. The main screen switched to show long-range sensor readings. Jake could see tiers in space itself, dark rifts that seemed to absorb light and matter. Through some of these rifts, shapes were beginning to emerge. What are those things? Beth asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake had seen them before, in the visions that came to him every time he closed his eyes. The Devourers. They're breaking free from their prison. As if responding to his words, the nearest rift expanded, suddenly. Something came through that made every human on the bridge step back in instinctive terror. It wasn't exactly a creature, because it had no fixed form. Instead, it was like a moving piece of emptiness that consumed light and matter as it moved. All human ships in the area are reporting system failures, Amy announced. But it's not mechanical failure. It's like the Devourer is draining the energy from everything around it, including the crew, Pete added grimly. I'm reading life sign failures on the ships closest to the rift. People are just stopping. Their brain activity is dropping to zero. Lisa studied her readings with growing alarm. It's feeding on their consciousness. Just like Kethtal warned us, the Devourers consume mental energy, the thoughts and awareness of living beings. But humans are supposed to be immune, Jake said. We were, 3 million years ago. But we don't know if that immunity still exists after the architects sealed away our abilities. Before anyone could respond, another alarm began sounding. Beth checked her instruments, and her face went white. Commander, multiple rifts are opening throughout human space. I count at least 50 dimensional tiers, and more are appearing every minute. The main screen split to show readings from across human territory. Every major colony was reporting the same phenomenon. Dark rifts were opening in space near populated worlds, and things were coming through that defied description. The Devourers aren't just escaping, Lisa realized. They're heading straight for human populations. They know we're here now. Jake felt a chill of understanding. Our awakening consciousness. It's like a beacon to them. They've been trapped for 3 million years, and now they can sense the one species that was able to hurt them before. Amy's station erupted with incoming transmissions. Commander, I'm receiving emergency broadcast from the Galactic Preservation Council. Ambassador Vexhai is requesting immediate communication. Put him through. The alien ambassador appeared, on screen, but he looked very different from their previous conversation. His normally calm demeanor was replaced by barely controlled panic, and his large purple eyes showed an emotion that Jake recognized as pure terror. Commander Morrison, the situation has become catastrophic. The dimensional barriers that contained the ancient enemy are collapsing throughout the galaxy. My people estimate complete containment failure within 72 hours. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means that every devourer that was sealed away 3 million years ago will be free to resume their conquest of the galaxy. Billions of them, all hungry after their long imprisonment. Lisa stepped forward. Ambassador, is there any way to rebuild the barriers? To force them back into their prison? The architect technology that created the original barriers was destroyed in the process of using it. The creators made sure that the sealing could never be reversed, because they knew the temptation to use such power would be too great for future civilizations. So what are our options? Jake demanded. Vexhai's expression grew even more grim. According to the ancient records, there are only two possibilities. Either the galaxy accepts complete conquest by the devourers, or the immune species awakens to its full potential and fights them again. But you said that human consciousness awakening is what's causing the barriers to fail in the first place. A terrible paradox. Your species' return to awareness is breaking the seals that keep the enemy contained. But you may also be the only ones who can stop them once they're free. Pete looked up from his engineering station. Commander, I'm detecting something strange. The devourers that have escaped their rifts aren't attacking human ships first. They're going after alien vessels. Jake studied the tactical display. Pete was right. The escaped devourers were systematically destroying alien ships while seemingly ignoring human vessels. They're testing us, Jake realized. They want to see if we still have our immunity before they risk a direct attack. Commander, Beth called out urgently. I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. What kind of transmission? It's from the Global Defense Council. They're reporting that people all over Earth are experiencing spontaneous awakenings of abilities they didn't know they possessed. Telekinesis, telepathy, matter manipulation. But more importantly, they're reporting successful resistance to devourer attacks. The main screen showed footage from Earth's orbital defense stations. Jake watched in amazement as human defenders fought against the escaped devourers using nothing but their newly awakened mental abilities. Streams of pure thought energy struck the creatures of darkness, actually forcing them back through the dimensional rifts. It's true, Lisa breathed. We still have our immunity, and our powers are returning. But even as they watched the successful defense of Earth, more alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The dimensional rifts were growing larger and more numerous. For every devourer that humans forced back, 3 more seemed to take its place. Ambassador, Jake said to the alien on screen. How many devourers were originally sealed away? Vexahai's response filled Jake with dread. Conservative. Estimates suggest several trillion individual entities. They had consumed the consciousness of most of the galaxy before the creators found a way to stop them. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. Humanity was awakening to incredible powers, but they were also facing an enemy that had once conquered most of the known galaxy. The ancient war was beginning again, and this time there were no creators to intervene if things went wrong. Commander, Amy reported, I'm receiving messages from human colonies throughout the galaxy. They're all asking the same question. Do we fight or do we try to find another way to rebuild the barriers? Jake stared at the tactical display showing the spreading dimensional rifts and the dark shapes pouring through them. The choice that Kethtel had warned them about was no longer theoretical. Humanity had to decide whether to embrace their dangerous heritage and fight an impossible war, or find some other solution before the galaxy was consumed by ancient hunger. Commander Jake Morrison stood before the main communication screen as representatives from every human colony appeared in holographic form around him. The bridge of the UES horizon had become the center of the most important decision in human history. "The situation is critical," Jake began, his voice carrying to billions of humans across the galaxy. "The dimensional barriers are collapsing. The ancient enemy called the Devourers is breaking free from their prison. We have perhaps 24 hours before they achieve complete freedom." Dr. Lisa Kane stood beside him, displaying the data they had gathered. "According to our research, humanity has two choices. We can attempt to rebuild the barriers that kept us hidden and hope it forces the Devourers back into their prison, or we can accept our true nature and fight them with the abilities that are awakening within us." Governor Sarah Miller from the Mars colony spoke first. She was an older woman with gray hair and worried eyes. "Commander Morrison, rebuilding the barriers would mean permanent isolation from galactic civilization. We would have to give up everything we've learned about the galaxy and return to being hidden. But fighting means risking everything," added Director Robert Hayes from the mining stations near Jupiter. "These creatures nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. What makes us think we can succeed where ancient civilizations failed?" Jake looked at the faces surrounding him, seeing the same fear and uncertainty he felt in his own heart. But he also saw something else: determination. The same stubborn human refusal to surrender that had carried their species through ice ages, and World Wars. Engineer Pete Adams stepped forward to address the assembly. "I've been studying the energy readings from the Devourer attacks. When humans use their awakened abilities to fight back, the creatures actually retreat. We're not just immune to their feeding, we can hurt them in ways that other species cannot." "But at what cost?" asked Dr. Helen Brooks from the research station at Alpha Centauri. "People who use these powers report severe mental exhaustion. Some have collapsed completely after repelling even small Devourer attacks." Communications Officer Beth Collins looked up from her station. "Everyone needs to see this. I'm receiving reports from the front lines." The main screen switched to show footage from the battle for Earth's moon base. Jake watched as human defenders used their newly awakened powers to fight creatures of living darkness. Streams of mental energy struck the Devourers, forcing them back through dimensional rifts. But the humans wielding these abilities looked exhausted, some barely able to stand. "The powers are real," Beth continued, "but they're taking a massive toll on anyone who uses them. Medical reports indicate that extended use could be fatal." Amy Price interrupted from her communication station. "Commander, I'm receiving an urgent transmission from Ambassador Vexhai. The Galactic Preservation Council has made a decision." The alien ambassador appeared on screen, his purple eyes filled with desperate resolve. "Commander Morrison, my government has authorized the use of our most powerful weapons against the dimensional rifts. We're prepared to destroy entire star systems if necessary to prevent the Devourers from spreading." "Including human star systems?" Jake asked coldly. "If that's what it takes to save the galaxy, yes. We cannot allow the ancient enemy to achieve full freedom. Too many civilizations have already fallen." Jake felt anger building in his chest. "So you're willing to commit genocide to solve a problem that your species helped create by keeping us ignorant of our true nature?" "We did not create this situation," Vexhai protested. "The barriers were failing naturally. Our only choice was whether to warn you or let you face the crisis unprepared. And you chose to let us face it unprepared until the last possible moment." Before the argument could continue, every alarm on the bridge began sounding at once. Lisa checked her instruments and her face went pale. "Jake, the largest dimensional rift yet just opened near Earth. Something massive is coming through." The main screen showed a tear in space that was easily 10 times larger than any they had seen before. Through it came something that made the previous Devourers look small by comparison. It was less a creature than a living void, a piece of absolute emptiness that consumed everything it touched. "That's not just a Devourer," Lisa whispered. "That's their leader, the entity that commanded their original conquest of the galaxy." The chaos, massive creature moved toward Earth with terrible purpose. As it approached, Every human on the planet began experiencing the same vision simultaneously. They saw the galaxy as it had been 3 million years ago, before the Creator's intervention. World after world consumed by darkness, entire civilizations reduced to empty husks. But they also saw something else. They saw their ancestors, the original humans who had fought this enemy before. They saw ordinary people discovering extraordinary powers within themselves and choosing to stand against impossible odds. Jake felt the vision wash over him, and with it came understanding. The choice wasn't really between fighting and hiding. It was between accepting responsibility for their heritage or abandoning it out of fear. "Open a channel to all human colonies," Jake ordered. "I'm making the choice for our species." Beth activated the communication system. Jake's voice now reached every human in the galaxy. "People of humanity, we stand at a crossroads that will define us forever. We can choose safety and isolation, living forever as prisoners of our own fear, or we can choose to be who we were, meant to be." He paused, watching the massive devourer approach Earth on the tactical display. 3 million years ago, our ancestors made the ultimate sacrifice to save the galaxy. They gave up their memories, their powers, and their place among the stars to ensure that this enemy remained contained. Now it's our turn to make a sacrifice. Governor Miller's image flickered as she spoke. "What kind of sacrifice, Commander?" "The sacrifice of ignorance. The sacrifice of safety. The sacrifice of being just another species trying to find its place in the galaxy." Jake looked directly into the camera, knowing his words were being heard by every human alive. "We are not just another species. We are the guardians chosen by the universe itself to stand against the darkness, not because we're stronger or smarter than other species, but because we have something they don't." "What's that?" asked Director Hayes. "Hope. The stubborn, irrational, absolutely human belief that things can get better even when everything seems hopeless." As Jake spoke, something extraordinary began happening throughout human space. On every world, in every station, humans were choosing to embrace their awakening abilities. They weren't doing it alone, but together, sharing the mental burden through the same consciousness network that had terrified the aliens. The massive devourer approaching Earth suddenly stopped. For the first time in 3 million years, it encountered something it couldn't understand. Instead of individual minds to consume, it found a collective consciousness that grew stronger when challenged. Dr. Lisa Kane watched her instruments with amazement. "Jake, the consciousness network is changing. It's not just carrying human emotions anymore. It's amplifying human determination and spreading it to the aliens." On the communication screen, Ambassador Vex High's expression changed from fear to wonder. "Commander, my people are experiencing something unprecedented. We're feeling hope. Not our own hope, but yours. And it's stronger than our fear." Throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations were making the same discovery. The human consciousness that had terrified them was now inspiring them. Species that had been paralyzed by fear of the devourers were suddenly finding the courage to fight back. The battle that followed wasn't fought with weapons or ships, but with the power of consciousness itself. Humans led the charge, their unique immunity allowing them to strike directly at the devourer's core. But they weren't alone. Alien species that had cowered before the ancient enemy for millions of years now stood beside them, empowered by human determination. The massive devourer leader found itself facing not just human resistance, but the combined will of the entire galaxy. For the first time since its imprisonment, it felt something it had never experienced before: doubt. Jake watched on the tactical display as the creature began to retreat toward its dimensional rift. But instead of escaping, something unexpected happened. The rift began to close, trapping the devourer leader between dimensions. "How is that possible?" Pete asked. Lisa studied her readings with growing excitement. The consciousness network isn't just fighting the devourers, it's repairing the dimensional barriers from the inside. The combined will of every conscious being in the galaxy is stronger than the technology that originally created the prison. One by one, the dimensional rifts throughout the galaxy began to close. the Devourers found themselves not just defeated, but sealed away more completely than ever before. This time, their prison wasn't built by ancient technology, but by the living will of an entire galaxy united in purpose. As the last rift closed, Jake felt a profound change in the consciousness network. The fear that had dominated galactic civilization for millions of years was gone, replaced by something that felt like the dawn of a new age. Ambassador Vexhi's image appeared on screen one final time, but now his expression showed respect rather than fear.